Hi everyone, and welcome to my review of Brad Bird's Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol in 2011. So, it's finally here, to review this film, because this is arguably the most popular Mission Impossible film. You could argue now that Fallout is more popular, but, that's only just come out, so, Ghost Protocol certainly for a long time has been the most popular, and, it's really just Fallout that's overtaken that maybe at the moment. Rogue Nation, very, very popular as well. The first three overall aren't as popular as these ones have been, the most recent three. But yeah, of course, most people hate on the second as well. But the fourth one, really, most people can agree that it's a really good film, at least, or a solid, solid entry. I absolutely love this film, and I've really been looking forward to rewatching it, because I haven't seen it for a few years now, maybe a couple of years. But it's one that when I first saw it, absolutely blown away by it. It's just amazing. It's just one of the best action films. Not of the 2010s, but probably the century, and among the all-time list that I've got. And yes, of course, Tom Cruise is back as Ethan Hunt. Of course, it wouldn't be Mission Impossible without him. But Brad Bird directs this film, and now when I heard about that, I was very excited. The Incredibles, one of the greatest films ever made for me, actually, not just animated, of course. And Ratatouille, Incredibles 2, which was amazing. This is his first live action film. It was his debut live action film, and really, everything that he thought could have been great that he could bring from the Incredibles kind of stuff was translated perfectly to the franchise. I think all the comedy and the kind of the set piece design and everything like that, and just the way he approaches the film, the tone of it, and the actual spy elements and stuff. It's just amazing. It's perfect, and I really couldn't imagine anyone else could have done this film better than him, on this occasion. And this is a contender for his best film. I'll still say The Incredibles is better, but yeah, Brad Bird is just an amazing director. And Mission Impossible, of course, this is from the set. Now, you can see my reviews if you want to see what I thought about the other ones, but we'll talk about, we kind of have to compare it to 3. I was very disappointed with 3 when it came out, on the couple of rewatches that I'd done after that, and of course this recent rewatch after many years. Just not a great film. Very, very, only just getting to the average mark for me, and it's just very generic, very lazy. J.J. Abrams, I don't think he'd done a good job of it, although, I think he'd done a stunning job with Force Awakens. I think he really did. I didn't care for his direction in that film. I thought it was a mess, really, most of the time. It was very, very, on the line of it could have been, under average, and I just didn't really like it too much. 4, this one, Ghost Protocol, is just better in every way. The jump is unbelievable. They were slowly dipping, I thought, each time, the first 3, up until this, which just brought right back up again. The franchise kind of just brought the franchise back, of course, and I love 2, but 3 was a massive dip, and as well, most people don't really like 2 too much. But this one brought it back, and everyone seems, it was just massive. It done massive at the box office, massive smash, and just it's very, very critically acclaimed. And the plot for this one is a bit more, it's clearer. It's clearer told than the third one, and it's not really as much of a MacGuffin that they used, and of course. What it does as well, I think, it brings back the sophistication of the storytelling that 1 had. 2, although I love 2, the second one, I wouldn't say it's sophisticated storytelling. At times it is, but overall it's not. It's not about that. It's all like campy, kind of pretty epic filmmaking, but it's not. It's not got a really sophisticated storytelling. Not even visually, I wouldn't call it sophisticated. Very, very good, of course, visuals, but this one brings that back. It brings back as well the actual spy elements. That was so good in the first one, and the kind of, the double crosses and stuff, and the patience, I think, as well, that the 3 lacked as well. Thinking it just had to go to action and stuff. This one just balances out its plot, which is really, really compelling. The third one wasn't. And 2, of course, didn't have too much of a plot, which I don't really care for. I don't care if a film doesn't have you know, really intense plot. You know, but it's bonus if it does, and it's really compelling as well. And this one brings it back. You know, it has just a clear story. You know, narrative, and as well, it's more so character driven. So it kind of balances all that out, and it's got the comedy that just works all the time. And if you've got, of course, some new characters, Jane Carter. You know, I think she was great in this film. Easily one of the best, you know, Mission Impossible characters. I think she was amazing. Paula Patton played her. You know, I really wish she was in some of the other ones. You know, she was just so good. And I love the relationship she had with Tom Cruise. You know, in this film as Ethan Hunt, and Simon Pegg. You know, as Benji. Amazing in this film. He's just so good in this film. Most of the comedy comes from him. You know, it's just such an enjoyable piece of cinema, and he's one of the reasons. You know, the way it's written as well is just so good. All the lines of dialogue work perfectly. You know, and the humour never overtakes. You know, you taking it seriously, the film, because of course it's got some. It's not really. You know, yeah, this one has got some dark moments, but it's not really that. It's a much more lighter in tone film. You know, you could say it's like 2 in the sense that it is more lighter tone. 3, it was very, very dark, but also I just couldn't take a lot of it seriously, the drama. So it kind of failed in that way. But you know, it did go for a darker turn, and it did, of course, try and bring out the humanity and stuff like that. I think this one goes back to the more just kind of just lighter tone, and you know, everything that kind of makes Mission Impossible great, but just, I suppose, more clearer than the first one in the way, you know, the plot is nowhere near as complex. You know, I would never. I always loved the first. You know, I love the first one. I think the plot is very, very complex. It's very, very challenging, but you know, I think it works so well. You know, and I don't. I think there's a flaw with the first one, but this one, you know, it is just clearer told. It is easy to understand. And of course, it's still very, very compelling, but it's more about the kind of set pieces, the characters, the team. This is what it is. The IMF team that is really just brings loads of warmth and just fun to the film. You know, I think that Jeremy Renner in this film is amazing. He's a very, very complex character, and I actually think this is probably better than he is in Avengers. You know, and I loved him in Avengers. You know, as Hawkeye, but you know, in this film as of course, William Brandt. I think that, you know, he's probably my favourite character that he's played, and you know, it's just such the dynamics in, you know, within the group. I think it's just so good, you know, and all the characters, the main 4 people in the group, the dynamics just play off of each other so well, and you've just got really great character development, and as well the kind of exposition that Jeremy Renner's character's given. It's perfect, you know, and it just there's the stuff that has happened that's relating to Tom Cruise. You know, what happened with Ethan Hunt in the last film kind of carries over, which I won't get into, but that was just great. Really, really well done. But you know, the opening scene, from the very opening scene, this film is just on fire. You know, everything works. It's masterful tension. You know, the set pieces are stunning, unbelievably good. All the characters, you know, they just all have their moments. It never loses sense of that, even in the final act. You know, it's just the characters are always progressing. They're always, you know, they're just always there. You know, sometimes action films can lose sense of that, usually in the final act. You know, but it did not. It did not do that. And as well, you've got like a really, really touching 5 minutes wrap up at the end, which was great. Of course, as well, you've actually got a cameo from Luther, you know. So, you know, he is in all of them. It's just this one he's not properly in it. He's a cameo. But Ving Rhames, you know, when he was there, he was amazing. Great to see him again. You know, even though that this one doesn't have him in it, you know, he's one of the best things about Mission Impossible. Even though it doesn't have him in it, you know, it still works because you've kind of got, you know, Simon Pegg as well. Luther basically brought a lot of the humour in some of the other ones, but Simon Pegg's there to kind of fill in that, you know, that place, and of course Rogue Nation, they're both in it, and Fallout. So yeah, we'll talk about that afterwards, of course, when I review them. But yeah, I think Simon Pegg just adds so much comedy to this film and charm and stuff that really, it's fine that Luther isn't there on this occasion, you know, and you know, you'd probably think that that would be, it'd be a shame to see him. It is a kind of shame. Even if he was in it, be even better. But as it stands, I think this is really a flawless film. The basic plot, which I've not really mentioned, I don't really need to mention too much, but it's about them going after these launch codes for these missiles. It's nuclear takeover and stuff. Basic Cold War kind of stuff that spy films, uses their kind of background and stuff. And yes, it is basically that. It's just, but the way that this film is told in its story is just masterful. The use of gadgets in this film, I think, is so good. This is how you do it in a franchise. This is how you use the gadgets. It's just amazing. The creation, it's just so good. And take note, Die Another Day. That's a film example where gadgets, bringing loads and loads of gadgets, modern gadgets into a franchise, can really mess the film up. But that was one of its minor, it had many problems, but that's an example of something that can go astray because of that. But this film, it did not do that, and it was just, it's a joy to see these gadgets used in the film, and the way they're used is so creative to kind of work within the action set pieces and as well the tension. The scene where they put up that kind of invisible hologram wall, where the guards kind of they can't see that they're there. That was a masterpiece of a scene. It's so good. There's comedy in there, there's tension, and it's just you just kind of just like, wow, that is something else. How they done that. Very creative stuff, and just Brad Bird never loses sense of anything that needs to be here. The comedy, as I say, never overtakes anything, and it's just constantly tense, constantly builds. It's operatic at times. It's so good, this film. The soundtrack is wonderful. The Russian songs as well early on, great. The kind of score there, it's just epic. And they infiltrate the Kremlin in this film as well. There's so many set pieces, and of course the most famous is the Burj Khalifa. That is really the best sequence in the film. It probably goes on for about 25 minutes, 30 minutes. That is Mission Impossible. That is just stunning. Just the kind of stunts that is involved then. Of course, Tom Cruise. You don't need to say too much more about him. He is just amazing. The way he does his own stunts is just something else, and it's so good, that scene. It's one of the most mind-blowing kind of action scenes of the century. It's amazing, and it's just as well. You've got loads of comedy. I'm kind of in awe of the comedy throughout this film because it's just so well done, and kind of it's just such an enjoyable film. This, but Tom Cruise again, he's much better than he was in 3. I think in 3 he kind of took a step down. I don't think he was quite as likeable, quite as charming. Of course, they wanted to go for a darker, more human Ethan Hunt, but on many levels, I think they failed with that. And this is a return to 2. He's more all out, kind of enjoyable, kind of more smiles, and not quite as campy as 2. It's nothing like that. But this is the one that I think this is the film that gets it perfect. With what he is throughout the franchise. 1, of course, he was perfect in that, but it was very, very, very different to what Mission Impossible is. I think actually, that's not really like any of the other ones. In a good way, of course. It's his own thing. It's just like a Brian De Palma thriller / action. It's very, very different. And 2 onwards, they're completely different. They're very, very separate. Because 1 was not, did not kind of. It kind of didn't fit into a franchise really at all. It wasn't like even like Dr. No was for Bond. It wasn't that at all. It was very, very different, and they've never gone back to it really in how that film was done. It's probably one of the most unique thrillers I've ever seen, actually, and in all the best ways, of course. But Tom Cruise, as we know him, throughout the franchise, the 5 films, this is the one that got it perfect, I think, and with the tone, with the way his character is, it's human moments, of course, but he is an action hero, and it's just the perfect balance, as well as comedy within the film, and just the banter throughout, the camaraderie between this unit is just amazing. It's got its touching moments as well, you know, with them, the struggles, and it's got everything you want really from a Mission Impossible film. The action is easily the best up to this point in the franchise. You know, I won't talk about the other two. Well, I've not seen Fallout yet. I won't talk about Rogue Nation, of course, until I review it, and that'll probably be. I'll probably watch it tomorrow. Rewatch it. The review will be up, probably up Tuesday. But I think Ghost Protocol is really a film that's hard to top. Do I think Rogue Nation is better? Wait and see. But really, this is for me one of the best action films of the century and among the all-time list. Really, the all-timers. I think it's just perfect. It's mind-blowing. You know, it kind of is what it feels like if you compare it to James Bond, which, you know, is fine to do. I think some of it is similar to Skyfall in the way that the Skyfall, you probably won't know what I mean here, but Skyfall is like it's very clean in the cinematography, if you know what I mean, a bit more cooler colour tones. It's not, you know, it's where it's got, it's just the way the action is in this film, I think is a bit similar to Skyfall, and the style of it. And as well, just the way that kind of it's more, you know, people, a lot more people with him, kind of helping him out and stuff. Yeah, I think it's very, very similar to Skyfall. Case, of course, it came out around about the same time as Skyfall. And yeah, I think it's just it's an absolutely masterpiece, really. This film, no flaws whatsoever for me. I think it's a charming film. It's just movie magic. This is, you know, what action films should be like now. You know, it's just one of the best. I don't think it's as good as Skyfall, personally, but you know, this is the one that really kind of matches up to films like that. Well, it's not quite on that level, but it's, you know, holds its own at this point with some of the James Bonds, you know, some of the better ones, I would say. And you know, I don't think there's much comparison. I always think Bond's better overall, but this one is just something else. I think it's a mind-blowing piece of cinema. I loved all the characters. You know, Jane, you know, and Jeremy Renner's character, Simon Pegg, Seydoux is in this film as well. Of course, who was the Bond girl from Spectre. She's really good in the film. I think it's just an absolutely thrilling film from start to finish. The set pieces are mind-blowing. In some ways, they kind of top themselves. The middle set piece is the best, the Burj Khalifa, you know, 25 minutes or so. It's just stunning. And it doesn't let itself down in the final act. It's just amazing. And all the character moments, just stunning. The opening scene as well, the prison one, is just amazing. The use of comedy. Brad Bird is just genius, really, for what he does with films like this. The Incredibles, Ratatouille, of course, as well. Stunning film. And yeah, it's just, I think this film is hard to top within the franchise. And you know, it easily gets my full marks, 100%. But you know, it gets into my plus tiers, which is something the first one didn't quite do, not quite. So yeah, I do think this is better. And it doesn't just get into the tier 3. I give this film 100% plus. Tier 2. That's how good this film is. Not much, you know, films in recent years have got this. You know, got this high on my list, but this one is easily one of the best action films, and it just is pure joy from start to finish. It's got its human moments, of course, but it knows exactly what the franchise is and should be. The first one to kind of get this right as a franchise. As I say, the first one wasn't really part of a franchise. It was its own thing, and it was a masterpiece. But this one, I think, is even better. And it's just mind-blowing, the way this film is crafted, you know, just how perfectly paced everything is, and all the balance of humour, and of course the action scenes are just stunning. It's unbelievable. Thrilling plot, and just so much character growth throughout the film. All the new characters just fit in right away, and visually and everything else, you know, storytelling is, you know, it's just masterful. And you know, I love the cameo from Luther. You know, this film has got everything, and you know, spoilers for my ranking. This, you know, yeah, it's going to be very, very high at least. Who knows if Fallout will top this? You know, I've heard so many great things about that. I'm not going to rule it out because it's just so many people have said it's like one of the best action films ever, you know, and since Mad Max and stuff. You know, so that would be something if it does top this. Find out what I think of Rogue Nation if that does top this. You know, find out. I'll be reviewing that very, very soon. But Ghost Protocol is an easy masterpiece, and it's just it's in my 100% plus tiers, which, you know, is just beyond regular masterpieces. And I think this is just a stunning film. It's in my 150 top films of all time, and perfect. Love it. Tom Cruise, epic, and this film is just amazing. So thanks for watching my review, and next up will be Rogue Nation. You know, in terms of Mission Possible. Fallout I will be seeing this week at the cinema. Fingers crossed for, you know, a good screening. And yeah, I'll be reviewing that. I cannot wait for that film. It's so, you know, I cannot wait for that film. Really, really pumped for that. And yeah. Ghost Protocol. Thanks for watching.